MyFantasySportsTalk.com.
Last week on My Fantasy Podcast. I'm beating you in baseball right now, though. I'm 2-0, you're 1-1, so I might take this time.
Buddy. Well,
it's a sign of things to come. I'm doing it, man.
Baseball.
I'm doing it.
Oh man, I just love your comebacks lately. You've been on point with some of them. I mean, they've just been making me chuckle. So keep throwing them because I like to laugh. I do.
We got hope, Nick. We got hope. Even Orlando says up by 15. I bet Judy doesn't say that. I bet Judy. Y'all probably watching the game in different rooms tonight. I understand. For the sake of the marriage, whatever it takes.
It's going to be tough. I mean, Cam's your quarterback, and he's just not a true winner in my eyes, so I don't think you're ever going to see.
But he's not the problem, Dan. Come on now. The quarterback ain't the problem.
No, he is not the problem, but you need to help him out. And in my mock, I have Christian McCaffrey going 8th overall to the Panthers. That's the perfect weapon that Cam needs in that type of offense to succeed. Just for the live draft show, I hope the Bills do something insanely stupid just so we can hear Ryan go off and go on his lovely tangents that we enjoy so much. I think you might even be able to get an audiobook of his tangents.
Okay. Well, here's a promise we got to make to each other, guys. We got to mute our microphones so that we can laugh in silence in the background and just let him go. Because chances are they probably will do something stupid. So we'll see. So pinky swear. We all got to mute our mics when it happens and just let him go. What up, podcast peeps? We're back. Just a regular podcast today from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Thanks to all those who joined us last week for the live NFL draft show. A whole lot of fun that is. We'll talk about that in just a little bit and get to that. But today, brand new show. My Fantasy Podcast here. Brandon Reed, Dan Chalk is here. We'll be joined by Orlando Torres in just a little bit. But here's a rundown for today's show. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to bring back the news whip around segment and just kind of whip around the world of sports headlines and tell you what's going on in the world of sports. One I just added that I just saw is that Tony Romo may have a new career on his hands. What is this? I thought he was going to be in the broadcast booth where it's nice and safe, but we'll see what he's talking about. I'll get Dan's take on that in just a second. But the news whip around, basically, we got a few things to talk about. Older players in the NFL signing with new teams, older players in the NBA getting shot. Adam Jones situation in Boston, what we saw the last a couple of days ago with Adam Jones in Boston and that situation. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk more baseball, MLB standings a little bit for all you baseball fans. And the Kentucky Derby is Saturday. And so looking forward to that and tell you who the favorite is there as well. But also we're going to recap the draft show. We'll talk about all that reaction from everything that we saw in the first round live here on My Fantasy Podcast and through the rest of the draft as well. And answer your mailbag questions about everything NFL draft related as well, of course. We'll talk about the NBA and the first round predictions that we made, who was right, who was wrong, and what happened since it's been 2 weeks since we've actually talked about that. And we'll talk about the second round going on right now and, of course, answer your mailbag questions. So, all that and more over the next couple of hours. So sit back and relax. Your favorite part of the week starts now, My Fantasy Podcast. I am Brandon Reed, lead writer for My Fantasy Podcast. Time to bring in that man. He goes by The Man, just plain and simple The Man. He's our president, founder, CEO, editor-in-chief, CFO, COO, and anything else that we ask him to do. And plus our lead draft profile expert, he is Dan the Man. Shaw, what it do, dog?
Man, just recovering. I don't have anything to do anymore. No film watching to really do, although I started a little bit on the 2018 prospects today. But, I don't know what to do with myself.
We can work on the NBA draft. So
that's true.
Check out what I do right here, My Fantasy Podcast peeps. Check out what I do. Dan, can we get a commitment that we'll do an NBA live draft show on My Fantasy Podcast right here today? Can you make that commitment? Are we going to do that?
Yeah, I'm down for it. I think after the feedback of our NFL draft show was very positive. So yeah, I'm all for NBA draft show. Why not do it? You sprung it on me, so I got to commit and stick to it. So I'll do that.
I'm watching out for my peeps at home, My Fantasy Podcast peeps. I saw the feedback too, man. It was great. And so we got to do an NBA live draft show, and that will be just as much fun. Can't wait for that. And plus, we can do it all in one night. It's done. There is no day 2, day 3. You'll see it all right here on My Fantasy Podcast.
Yeah, that's I do like how the NFL started to split it up into days, kind of gets you a moment to figure out what's going on and to even cover it even more. So they did it for money, obviously, but it makes it more exciting to me. But the NBA draft, I think we're going to be, if we do a live draft show, I think we're going to have a whirlwind, because after players are picked, they're always traded. So we're going to have to keep up to date with that. And I think we can definitely handle that for the viewers out there if they tune into our NBA draft show.
100%. And we also got to see some new faces. The MyFantasySportsTalk.com world did. The My Fantasy Podcast world did. We got to see the faces of Ryan Thomas. He's been a guest on the show before, but a couple of new faces, Malachi David, and of course Dylan Davis Tirado was live in that creepy bar of death in New York. So we got to see some new faces, introduce the My Fantasy Sports Talk world to those guys as well. And we're going to continue doing that. And of course, we mentioned we'll bring Orlando in just a little bit, but you can see that we're almost starting almost like a second mid-season. It's almost like our mid-season break last week. In our second quarter now with the cast, so we'll start doing things a little bit different there, bringing in some even newer faces.
Yeah, I think you're in the TV world, Brandon. Maybe this is our sweeps, or however you want to call that. But yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say reformatting completely, but being able to bring the other MFST writers on, and we saw them during the draft show and how great they did. Shout out to Dylan, Malachi, and Ryan there. They provided great feedback and a different voice. We always have myself, you, and Orlando on, so bringing in some other guys, some other guests, and I think it brings a different voice to the podcast. And even besides the MFST writers, I think it's a goal of ours. We're going to be able to bring some other guests on that are outside in the world of sports. So having them come on the show, I think the fans who already like My Fantasy Podcast are going to like it even more moving forward, because all we do is keep improving. And, Brandon, here's the thing. You have improved, and which is shocking, I know, because how great you are. But every time it's like you blow me away. So I'm just excited, it's building and it's growing, and I'm excited for the My Fantasy Podcast fans out there to be able to see what we can bring them weekly.
That's right, and I'll just say I'm excited for you about being excited about me. If that's not too creepy, but I'm excited that you're excited about me, because I try to excite, and that's what it's all about. But it's also, it's going to give us a chance to bring in a new mix, because some of these guys, and the reason why we want to do this and bring in different guys through in the podcast going forward is because they all have, and we all do have, our own little different twist of what we keep up with, and our own, special areas of interest that we keep up with and write about, of course, on the pod site. So, man, one podcast, we may let Orlando and Ryan Thomas just go at it about MMA and UFC, something they keep up real heavily. And then another day it may be somebody like Dylan Davis Tirado talking about the New York football, and letting him go crazy with yourself and Ryan Thomas about Bills football and how bad it's going to be. And just, you never know. So it's going to bring a different twist into my fantasy podcast, just a little bit something different. And you're going to hear different voices, like you said, see different faces, and it's going to be different conversations.
Yeah, definitely. And anytime you can get that different variety on, I think it reaches everybody that all of our listeners. I'm sure I probably offended people. I know in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, I certainly have. So
you just did it again. I keep telling you, it's Kenosha, man.
So, I mean, if people are getting sick of me having these other voices come on, maybe that can appease them a little bit more. But I'm excited for it, and I think it's only going to help us continue to grow.
You're about to lose your Kenosha, Wisconsin fan base. They're itching for someone else to like, so you're about to lose them altogether. You're going to lose the territory. But hey. Do what you got to do. I'm still going to bring the tape up. And here's something else, folks. We're going to start creating. If you haven't checked out YouTube lately, check us out, because we're chopping up some of the podcast into highlight clips and special specific topics just for you guys who are just want one or two particular things that you want to hear about or hear again and again and again and again. We'll chop that up on YouTube and put it out there. But we're also going to start putting out some highlight shows, recapping 3, 4, 5 shows at a time of the best of, so to speak. All that'll be on the YouTube page as well, and so I'll clip that out soon and put and clip out where we talked about Dan's biggest fan base being in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the subsequent disrespect week after week after week for Kenosha, Wisconsin. Not how you build a fan base in Wisconsin, Dan. That's all I got to say. So, but anyway, look for all that on YouTube. Thanks for joining us live on YouTube. Submit your feedback. Thanks for you guys who submitted the live feedback during the live draft show last week. We enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and we gave away prizes, Dan. We'll talk about that in just a second. But hey, let's bring back the news whip around and talk about what's going on in the world of sports. What's going on, the headlines as of today. Before I even get into the ones I already had, mentioned or, set to mention and talk about today, is something I just saw, Dan. Is Tony Romo seriously going to try? Well, he is serious. He's going to try out for the U.S. Open along with about 9,500 other folks who are going to try to qualify for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I saw the story today. I loved it. Back when Tony was still a quarterback for the Cowboys, he tried to qualify, and I think he did 1 year, but he stopped playing golf, competitively in 2013. A lot of Cowboys fans didn't like it. I really didn't care. If that's something he's passionate about and it's in the off season, you're still going to all the team activities, then go for it. But I respect his decision to stop playing competitively. And now that he's retired, go for it. He's definitely got some talent. I think you've probably heard or read some of the scores that he's been able to shoot. So I think it's definitely possible that he might qualify. I'll say this: Tony Romo will win a tournament before Tiger Woods does.
I don't know about that. Not on the PGA Tour. I'm not going to go that far.
I already went there. It's been gone.
You went there. You're not speaking for me whatsoever. So I'm not going there. But he does have skill. You are correct about that. You are correct, sir. But it didn't concern you as a Cowboys fan that he probably needed to focus on not only his body and his health, but completely focus on the game of football back in around 2012, 2013 when he was competing and seriously playing a whole lot of golf in the offseason? That didn't concern you as a Cowboys fan?
And honestly, it didn't. I was probably one of the few Cowboys fans that didn't get upset because, I read all the hate that really Tony got, and I thought it was a little unjust. There's an off season for a reason, and you have to have other activities. I mean, NFL football, while I want my quarterback to be ingrained in it and, be that workhorse, you still need to do other things to have a fulfilling life. So you have to look at that about athletes. They're not just sports stars in the game that they play. They have personal lives. They have, hobbies and things they like to do. Are you going to stop, certain NBA players? I think it might have been Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, who came out with a rap album that was terrible. I know maybe your boy Penny Hardaway came out with one. I know there were a lot of NBA players who have done that. You're going to tell them they can't, wrap up some lyrics like Le'Veon Bell did or different things. Golf is, while a little bit more physical to your point, I wasn't too concerned. And, I wish him the best of luck now because he can really put some work into it. And we can see the type of golfer at age 36 or 37, what he can become.
Let's be honest, it's not a bad transition out of football. If you've seriously hung up your cleats and you're not going to play anymore, we'll talk a little football on Sundays in the CBS booth and get out there and play some golf, maybe win some money playing golf, as if you needed any more money, but not a bad transition of life, huh?
I got to tell you, man, I'm going to miss Tony on Sundays, miss him in a Cowboys uniform, but I envy his lifestyle. It's kind of hard to pass that up, with the way on, outside looking in of the type of life that he has, where you can just, like you said, talk football, play golf, have a great family, a third child on the way. It's props to him. It's something that I think is well deserved. He got a lot of hate being the Cowboys starting quarterback, but he had a great football career, and now it's on to his post football career, which as all signs point to, is going to be great as well.
Well, let's not forget one of my first statements is that he will be competing with about 9,500 other golfers looking to qualify for the U.S. Open. So a lot of work to do, but I'd have to say he's probably in the top half tier. I don't know. If there's 95, I didn't realize there was 9,500 semi-professional golfers or golfers good enough to even think they have a chance of qualifying. That's outrageous. I guess I didn't really even realize the number was that big when trying to qualify for these major tournaments. We'll see. He has a lot of work cut out for him, though. But, hey, it'll be interesting to watch. I'll definitely watch. So let's talk about Jamaal Charles, another guy who might need to consider picking up golf because I'm not sure how much further his football career is going to go, but he has a new home. And here's another thing, Dan, with a guy here's the first thing I thought about when I heard that Jamaal Charles is signing with the Denver Broncos. It's thin air up there in Denver. So you're getting older. Your body's not in the greatest health anyway. Now it's going to be harder to breathe. Breathing is kind of essential to playing football. Is this going to work out for Jamaal Charles?
Sadly, I don't think so. I think Jamaal Charles' playing days are done. I'll be surprised, honestly, if he makes the team out of camp. I think he's going to be a training camp cut. Only $900,000 of his contract was guaranteed. So, in NFL terms, that's not really a lot. So I think he's done. I mean, you look at it, the last 2 years, he's been able to play 8 games. In the few games that he was able to play this year, it was atrocious to watch. So I think he's at his limit. I mean, he was a great running back. Running backs have shelf lives. Yet you get injured as much as he does. You don't have the type of size and bulk to withstand the type of hits and just durability you need to be a running back. I don't think he has it anymore. And then you just look at the Broncos roster. I mean, who is he going to beat out? You have C.J. Anderson. You have Devontae Booker. The Broncos spent a 5th-round draft pick this year on D'Angelo Henderson out of Coastal Carolina, a guy that I'm very high on, who I definitely think will make the team coming out of camp. And you have some other guys like a Bernard Pierce and a Jawan Thompson. So there's going to have to be some cuts. So who's going to go? And if it's Jamaal Charles on half a knee, it's not going to be him to stay on that roster and make the team.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I don't think it was ever with the intention of him being even the second string. I don't know. I think they just want to give it a shot to see what he has left because it's probably worth that. It's worth a flyer. Do you remember what the number was as far as money?
Yeah, it's 1 year. It can be up to $3.75 million. $900,000 is his base salary, and the rest is incentives for playing time. So yeah, it's a little risk. Worst comes to worst. I mean, if you can get 5 games out of him, 5 healthy games where maybe he gets 50 yards a game, taking him from a division rival and having him produce a little bit, it's a win. So definitely a little risk involved by John Elway. So it's tough to knock the Broncos for this, but I just don't see it becoming a long-term success story of Jamaal Charles making it back and playing again in the NFL.
Yep, I 100% agree, and it kind of lets you know how far he fell or who was knocking on the door during this last couple of months and what he finally had to settle for because it's not a lot of money. And I think he had to come to a hard realization probably that his best days are way behind him, but we'll see what happens in Denver. He may be catching passes out of the backfield from my boy Paxton Lynch next year. we'll see. But well, wish him luck. He really had a great career. We talked about it before. I mentioned him as borderline Hall of Famer. Looking back at it, the time in the NFL was just not there. He had a great 3-year run and probably was on track, but cut short with injuries. And this is where he lands now, up in the snow in Colorado. So good luck to him, though. Brandon Roy was in Compton this weekend, and for a lot of people, probably not the best place to be, and Brandon Roy may feel the same way now because he was shot in the upper body. I don't know where exactly or what is. The injuries are not life-threatening, but he was shot along with 3 other people at a party in Compton. Dan, and if in case you don't remember, Brandon Roy had a great career at Portland for a while, just ran into some knee injuries and was never the same and just couldn't make it back. But great player when he was actually around. And I don't remember, Dan, he was probably a top 10, top 12 pick, right, back in the day?
I want to say so. I mean, I remember him playing at Washington with the Huskies, so he was definitely a great college player. He had a great career that was cut short, and it's kind of the luck of the Portland Trailblazers. They always seem to draft guys, and they get hurt, and they're done.
Well, they were playing at the same time, him and Greg Oden, and the bottom just dropped out for Portland because they were supposed to be an up-and-coming, really hot young team, and they were for a little while. I'm thinking maybe even like Sebastian Telfair was another young player that they had. It didn't work out for them. The chemistry was bad, but Greg Oden, Brandon Royce, specifically due to injuries.
Yeah. I mean, they've definitely had some luck, or did not had a lot of luck, with their draft picks and building that team and being able to stay healthy. Kind of weird with Brandon Roy. I wrote a piece today on the site saying about it. I think it was a lower body injury. He got shot in the leg, from what I've heard. But he was at his grandmother's house, I believe. She was having people over, and he actually protected children, when gunfire went off. So you got to give him props for that. Kind of crazy when I was writing the story, because as I was writing it, it kind of brought back a dream that I had, literally maybe 2 days before. I had a dream about Brandon Roy. Really weird. That's just crazy. And it wasn't anything weird. It was just watching him play, and just a guy that I remembered playing. And it was so surreal writing the article and thinking, man, I had a dream about him, and he just got shot. So kind of strange, but it's tough to see. But obviously a heroic moment for Roy, and it's good that the injuries aren't life-threatening, and he should be able to have a full recovery.
Yeah, it is. As far as they know, no motive for the shootings, no suspects caught, or even suspects named to this point, as far as I know right now. But man, that's weird. That's something, Dan. That happens. It's scary when you have those premonition type dreams. It's happened to me before, actually, with a close family member that died, and I had a dream about that just like a couple of weeks before he died, and it was. It really affected me. It really did. And so when something like that happens, it just makes you stop and think, whoa, man, that's even more crazy for you, Dan, because this is just a random obscure basketball player that hadn't played in years. So just promise me, if you have a dream about me, good, bad, whatever, let me know, because I'll probably just stay in the house for a few days, play it safe, But anyway, hopefully full recovery there. Just a bad story for Brandon Roy. And by the way, who actually won the Naismith Coach of the Year award in high school this year. So he's actually coaching a team in Seattle, I believe. So he's moved on and coaching basketball at a very successful level. So we do hope he makes a full recovery. I'm sure his kids do as well, that he coaches. Adam Jones of the Baltimore Orioles was in Boston. I think this happened Sunday or Monday night. Got heckled, got called, more than heckling, I would say. Got called derogatory names, racist slurs thrown at him, peanuts thrown at him. And so this kind of brought to light a lot of conversation about the crowd in Boston and the Boston atmosphere, and some folks have even gone as far to bring up that they were the last team in baseball to integrate. So how much of this do you think really still goes on, and is this probably worse in Boston, do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't want to think it's a prevalent thing. I was lucky enough to go to a couple of Red Sox games last year, and the crowds there were great. I went to a Blue Jays Red Sox game, and I wasn't rooting for the Red Sox. I wasn't wearing Blue Jays garb or anything like that, but I was actively rooting for the Blue Jays, and I didn't get any type of negativity thrown at me. But then again, I'm sure I don't want to say it's all of Boston fans. Although, they can be a little brutal. I think everybody can agree to that. You have those diehards. They're everywhere, though. They're not just in Boston. I think probably what happened here is you got a guy that drank a little bit too much, was having, not to give that an excuse, but I'm sure it was,
Well, I think it was multiple people. I heard this morning that they actually threw 34 people out of that game.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm not sure if that's typical. I'm not sure if you throw out a dozen fans in a regular Tuesday night game anyway, just because of rowdiness or whatever. But 34 people were actually ejected from that game. Not sure if it's directly related to this incident or, like I said, that's just what happens, when people start drinking and get heavily involved in their team. So I don't know, but 34 people were ejected.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that number, so that's a little shocking and kind of sways my view on it a little bit. I was just thinking it was some intoxicated fans just went a little overboard, but it's a tough thing when 34 people are getting thrown out. Maybe it is a little bit more for concern, but the Orioles are a big rival. And as we've seen in that series, you have pitchers, throwing at batters consistently. And it's kind of that unwritten rules of baseball have maybe translated into the stands. Not that should be allowed or even an unwritten rule. It should not ever happen. But it is. But I don't think it's just stuck to Boston. I think you find that pretty close to everywhere. Maybe not on that scale, though.
Well, a lot of people are wanting baseball now to step in and do something about this Red Sox-Orioles rivalry they got going, because it has been ugly, in the last couple of years, I guess. But with throwing at people, and then of course this would happen, in Boston. So it's definitely one of the hotter rivalries in sports right now, I would say, as far as heated. Just can't stand the other squad.
Yeah, and I mean, those two teams have been the class of the AL East the last few years. The Yankees have fallen off. The Rays have never really been there. You had the Blue Jays make some nice runs, but I think the fire that's lit under the Orioles and Red Sox fan base towards each other. Manny Machado, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, slid and took out Dustin Pedroia's knee, and it's kind of just escalated from there. So something's going to have to be done. I mean, I think you probably heard about Manny Machado's profanity-filled tirade last night. I enjoyed it. I got some laughs out of it. But at the same time, if you're going to continually throw at people and, it just takes one to get hit in the head and Manny Machado, a star of baseball, could be done or shelved. So you never want to see something like that happen.
He's on my fantasy team, so watch out. If you're going to hit me, just freaking hit me, okay? Just freaking hit me. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, as far as, you hate the Adam Jones thing, and they did give him a standing ovation the very next night, because I think the majority of people, I like to think the majority of people are good-hearted and don't have any racist tendencies in them. That's what I would like to believe. It may sway depending on where you're at and what environment you're at. But Dan, something I didn't realize until I heard this morning, do you realize there's only 63 black players in the major leagues?
Yeah, no, it's something that I didn't know the exact number, but I knew it was very low. MLB Network brought up a special last year that I watched that just showed the decline of black players, African Americans in the major leagues. It's all the talents is coming from Cuba, the Dominican, Central America, things like that. So it's tough to see, and it's kind of strange because you would think it might be a little bit more popular among youths, even in inner cities or anything like that. It doesn't take a lot to pick up a ball and a bat and swing and throw. So it's probably the staleness of the game. You don't see too many people. Oh wow, baseball's on. Let me go watch that. Or I can't wait to get out of school and go play catch with my friends. I don't think you see that too much anymore. So it's definitely.
Let's also be honest. A lot of time in the inner cities, there's just nowhere to play baseball.
True.
You know, there's just not fields. You can't just go out, that's another thing. You can't play alone. You know, if when you practice basketball on your own, you can even probably practice football a little bit on your own, throwing the ball or whatever. But baseball is just one of those things you really can't play really effectively, even with two people. It takes a group of people with equipment, bats, balls, gloves, and an open field.
Yeah, that's a great point. You see that the stickball of playing in the streets, that day is over, back during the 20s and 30s. But I think it's something that Major League Baseball, the special that I watched on MLB Network last year, it said how the actual Major League Baseball operations are taking efforts to try and increase the popularity amongst those inner city kids to try and get the participation up. So it'll be interesting to see in the next few years how that kind of happens. I do know, the rumored number one pick in the MLB draft is going to be an African American pitcher. So that's going to be an American. So that's going to be nice to see. He's going to become a future star. He hit 102 miles an hour as a junior. So he's got some skills. So watch out for him, because he's going to his name eludes me off the top, but he's going to be something special.
So we'll talk about the MLB standings in just a minute, but I got a message from Michael Gomez, who's watching the podcast. And I don't know if you saw this, Dan, but it's for you, Dan. Tiger Woods will win a Super Bowl before Romo.
Oh, that's great. Great, Michael Gomez. We'll have you on here and we can talk Lakers and how successful they will be. Because, let's just talk about the Lakers for a second. They got to do something, because 16 wins a year under 20 isn't cutting it. And, the good thing is Tony Romo can lead his team to the playoffs. That was proven.
No, well, he's not wrong, though. He's not wrong.
No, he's not. I'll give him some props there. That's a solid call out. Thanks for watching, Michael Gomez. Appreciate it, man. But Tony Romo, he's got some skills. You're going to watch him qualify for this Open. It's going to happen. Faith.
No, I'm not really doubting that, because he does have some golf skills. So, but anyway, great comment, Michael. That didn't even think about it. 100%. So real quickly in the standings, we talked about the AL East. Baltimore they're right there at 16-9 right now. One of the better teams in the major leagues. And Boston's only 14-12. So Baltimore and the Yankees are tied at the AL East, 16-9. The bottom dwellers, Toronto Blue Jays, who a lot of people picked to be up there, and have a shot at the pennant. I don't think it's going to happen. Not looking like it anyway. The White Sox are leading the AL Central 14-11. Right behind them are the Twins at 13-11. The bottom dwellers are Kansas City Royals at 8-17. In the West, you got the Houston Astros, your team, Dan, 18-9, doing really well. Not really any competition right now. The Angels are 3.5 games behind them, and everybody in that division is still a race right there in the AL West. NL East has the Washington Nationals leading 17-9, and the Mets have really fallen off there since last year, 11-15. They're going to have to claw back up. In the NL Central, Chicago Cubs, this is anybody's division right here. There's 2 games separating everybody. So the Cubs are 14-12, not off to the greatest start. Cardinals are climbing back up. They are 13-13 right now. And Pittsburgh is 12-14 in the bottom of that division. In the NL West, you got the Diamondbacks at 17-11, one of the hottest teams in the majors. And the Rockies are right behind them, 16-11. And then the bottom team just warms my heart. It's the San Francisco Giants at 10-18. Love it. What's going on in the MLB as far as the standings early in the season after a good month of the season, Dan? What surprises you?
Well, I can tell you the Astros don't surprise me. They were my World Series pick, and I'm sticking with it. They can 1 through 9 in their order. They're raking. It's been impressive and fun to watch when you have, a guy like a Yuli Gurriel batting seventh, but he's hitting almost 350. Or a Marwin Gonzalez, who's batting last in the lineup. He hit 2 home runs last night and has 7 for the season. So their offense is there and they're pitching. Dallas Keuchel is back to his Cy Young form. Lance McCullers is a solid number 2, and even the other guys like a Joe Musgrove or Charlie Morton, they're stepping up. So it's been fun to watch for the Astros. I think they're the premier team of the American League. It's very early still, so you never know what can happen. But I like them to still, ride it all out and claim the American League pennant. You talked about a team like the Blue Jays. They're dealing with a ton of injuries, so you can see why they've kind of taken a dip. The Yankees are the surprise of the AL to me. I didn't think they were going to be this good right away. Aaron Judge is crushing the ball, the right fielder. I think he has 10 home runs in April, so he's definitely living up to his billing as a superstar prospect. And then when you head to the National League, I think the Cubs are still dealing with a little bit of a World Series hangover. They haven't played up to their full potential. Some of their younger guys are struggling. Their pitching staff is struggling. The Mets, similar to the whole
division, is though really. I mean, it's still up for grabs.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they're still the class of that division. I think they're still going to end up with it. You see a team with the Brewers. I think they're 14-14. Eric Thames is crushing the ball. Everybody's saying PEDs. I think you're going to see them start to tail back a little bit, and the Cubs will start to kind of take over. But my biggest surprise is those Giants that you love so much, Brandon. 10-18. They have a star-studded lineup. They've dealt with some injuries, but Matt Moore, a guy that a high-priced pitcher that they got from Tampa Bay last year. I think he has a 6 or 7 ERA, and he's their number 2 or 3 starter. So you can't have that. And they're just not hitting well. They're not pitching. They have no bullpen. So they're in some trouble. They're going to make some deals or start to turn it around somehow, because you can fall out of it fast. You might not be able to pull away this early, but you can fall out pretty quick.
So there's an update on the MLB standings. We'll talk more about that next week and see how these teams progress. Just early in the season, just a month in or so, I finally got a loss in the fantasy team. Dan Schalk did go ahead and give me my first loss, so 3-1 right now. I'm bouncing back, though. We'll see him in the championship. We got a heated rivalry, kind of like the Red Sox and Orioles, between me and you, Dan, and it's crossing borders now. It's in 3 different sports.
Well, and then I've said this multiple times on the podcast, but if you're coming for us, when we have our fantasy mailbag segments and different things, giving you fantasy advice, Brandon and I are pretty legit. I mean, if you can make the championship game and basically every single league like we have matching up, you're getting some good, talented fantasy players, and I think that shows of the track record of our expertise on this podcast. So, when fantasy football season comes, or even now fantasy baseball, send in your fantasy questions. We'll be happy to answer them. You don't have to listen to Brandon, but you can, he'll give his answers anyways. But I will answer too. So that'll be.
I need the peeps help. Send them so you can help me. So help me do research.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, I think it's an impressive feat that we've been able to make the championship game of all the leagues that we've played in, and we got some talent here. My Fantasy Podcast. What do you expect?
Split the championships. It is 1-1 as of now. So, and last bit of news in the news whip around is that, of course, the Kentucky Derby is Saturday. For horse racing fans and fans, or just, people who like watching the horse races, there's really only 3 big ones per year. So, Kentucky Derby is this Saturday. Classic Empire is the name to watch out for this year. He is the odds-on favorite, 4-1, with the best odds of winning, and he is the Arkansas Derby winner. So there you go for all your horse racing fans. Dan, are you into it?
I'll probably watch it. I mean, it takes a minute, so I'm not going to watch all that pre-festivities things. I'm not into all the hats and the glamour of the Derby, unless you're like Tom Brady and Wes Welker and you're going to trip on some drugs. You can do that. I don't know if you heard that, Brandon, but they supposedly did that at the Derby. But anyways, that was. I mean, I'll watch it. I think the front runner that you're talking about got 14th position and only 2 Kentucky Derby winners have come from that position. So I think that might take him hurt him a little bit, but
it's not incredible odds at 4-1. It's the best odds, but not overwhelming odds.
Right. So I mean, it's definitely going to be it'll be interesting for that minute, and after that minute, I'll shut it off.
Well, there you go. So, all right, that is your news whip around for this week's edition. So now let's welcome in the man, the myth, the legend. He is our resident actor, thespian. Look, he's got the scarf on. He's got the actor scarf on. What the hell is going on here? He's Orlando Torres from San Antonio. What's going on, man?
How's it going, fellas?
It's good. You're like what was the line on Seinfeld, Dan? He's like an out of work actor. He's got the scarf on.
I don't know what you're talking about there, and that actually hurts me because I pride myself on knowing every Seinfeld episode. So you stumped me on that one, Brandon.
You should. That's disappointing, but anyway, Orlando Torres is with us now. So, man, just in time to talk football, how about that draft show, Orlando? Was that a lot of fun or what?
It was a lot of fun and predictable. Pretty much got all our picks wrong what we originally thought, but it was a great show and great interaction with everybody.
Yep, no doubt. So now let's just talk about, well, first of all, I just want to give thanks to all the guests that showed up, of course. Me, myself, and Dan and Orlando were all there, but Dylan Davis Tirado, Malachi David, and of course DDT, Dylan Davis Tirado, Ryan Thomas, sorry, was on the draft show. So big time, and thanks to all the viewers who viewed and submitted all their feedback. And we had prizes to give away, and one of our most loyal viewers, watchers, listeners won the prize. Dan, talk about that and talk about the fact that the ladies were killing it calling these picks.
Yeah, we actually, for those that don't know, if you correctly identified the pick before it happened on our draft show, you got entered in to win, a sports memorabilia package that we ended up giving away, which included a signed picture of Darryl Talley, a Buffalo Bills great, and a mini helmet of the team of your choice. And the team that ended up being chosen was the Titans, which probably makes Brandon happy, and a great fan of the show, a family fan of the fans of the show, Nick and Judy Pertins. For those that didn't see I posted a video on our Facebook page picking the winner live, so there was no funny business. And I don't know if you guys saw that. Did you like my nifty hat trick? And I just whipped off the hat and pulled the names. I was like a magician out there. So it was definitely a lot of fun to do, and to be able to pull
quite impressive. I'll say it was quite impressive.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. Magicians have reached out to me to try and learn the tricks of the trade. So it was a lot of fun. Seeing Judy's name made me happy, because anytime, I think it's safe to say they're loyal listeners that love the show. So it was good to be able to send them that sports memorabilia package, and more ladies guessed correct answers than men. So that was I don't want to say a shock, but it was definitely eye-popping to see.
See, I thought originally you were going to pull the list of names out of your beard. Now that would have been something.
I trimmed it up so there's nothing that can get stuck in there. I usually have some food particles, and I pull out a turkey sandwich every once in a while, but I trimmed it up for the draft show to look all pretty for you guys.
Yep, you did. Hey, and maybe that's why we got so many ladies that know what they're talking about, because they're watching all the sexiness that goes on this podcast, and they're well informed. Just a theory, but it's a very plausible theory.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So surprises, guys. Surprises in the first round, just the first round specifically. I think we were all blown away that the Chicago Bears did what they did, and now they're the new Cleveland Browns. Is that a consensus? What the hell?
Yeah, I think we were all kind of floored when that happened during the draft show. Kind kind of left me speechless, which was a little shocking. I still don't know. You know, you've had some Hall of Fame general managers like a Ted Thompson and Bill Polian come to Ryan Pace's defense, the GM of the Bears, for making that deal. I don't see it. You moved up one spot, and as an article I put out today, the general manager of the Titans, John Robinson, was fielding calls all day, he said, at that number 5 spot for teams to trade up for Mitchell Trubisky. The calls stopped, dead silent, once the Bears made that deal. So teams were willing to move up.
Obviously, to believe that they were they were trying to move up to get Trubisky.
Exactly, yeah. So once the phone stopped ringing, after Trubisky was already selected, you put 1 and 2 together, and you get 3. You like that math? 1 + 2, 3. And that goes to show that teams wanted Trubisky, but they weren't willing to move up to that 2 spot. And it was crazy that the Bears gave up what they did to move up 1 spot to grab their guy after, as I already mentioned, signing Mike Glennon to 16 or 17 million guaranteed. Crazy.
Obviously, the shock of the first round, correct, Orlando?
Yeah, no, moving up, and that was the biggest shock, along with some of the quarterbacks moving so fast as well.
So, real quick, Dan, team grades. I mean, who do you think did the best job? I know you had. I really liked what San Francisco did because they got 2 studs in the first round, and I mean, I overall in the first couple of rounds, I liked what Cincinnati did. Man, they walked away with a couple of big time studs. With John Ross and Joe Mixon. I mean, that's going to be a dangerous offensive team.
Yeah, we have a mailbag question that'll tie in John Ross, so we'll get to that part. But yeah, I agree. I like what the 49ers did. They fleeced the Bears. They got 2 of their top 3 ranked players on their board total, in Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster, falling all the way to 31. So that was an impressive haul. The Browns, they had so many picks. They're bound to get some solid players. I hate the Jabril Peppers pick, but the other ones that they made, I like. And, the Browns are going to have an answer to another mailbag question that we'll receive. But I'll get into the rest of the Browns draft and a specific player that I do like in a little bit. But the Browns had a solid draft, and they finally got some talent on that team that can make an impact right away.
Finally, after how many drafts, finally getting this thing, I think, pretty right. But I don't know. It's got to be played out on the football field, that's for sure. But I like what they did, I got to say. And to me, the Bears are the sucker of this group this year. But we'll get into that. We got mailbag questions to talk about next. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Thanks for giving us a click and a listen and a watch. Brandon Reed, Dan Schalk, and Orlando Torres is here. So let's talk about what you at home want to talk about on the NFL draft side. So the first question comes from CJ Webster, and he asks, what is the best value pick in the draft? I have to say Samaje Perine by the Skins. So, Orlando, let's go to you. If one had to if one kind of shocked you as, damn, they got him, then who would that be?
There was a couple players like that. A value pick. How about? And this makes, I don't know if he would be so much of a value pick because he was a guy who was pretty high on boards. But I really like Forrest Lamp going to San Diego. I don't know if you would consider that much of a value pick, but that's one thing that for a number of seasons they slacked on with Phillip Rivers taking a beating. And I think that's one guy who's going to develop really well on that side of the ball and protecting Phillip Rivers for however many seasons he has left and whoever comes in next. So that's a really great pick, if you ask me.
Agree. I also agree with CJ Webster about Perine. Completely agree. 114 to Washington, and I kind of start in the first round with Reuben Foster falling so far. I don't know. We'll see. We talked about him about, I don't know, is he going to work out? Some of the off the field stuff, just some, maybe not interviewing well, but I still think he was a pretty good grab so late in the first round when, a couple of weeks before the draft, he was projected, top 10, 12 pick or so. So, but I really think John Lynch got a steal there. He went 31 in the first round. So, but a couple other value picks that I was looking at is I think Cam Robinson will make an impact right away for Jacksonville. Not a huge leap, early second round. He was the 34th pick overall, but I think he was one of those guys that you probably will end up, after all said and done, a first round talent. We'll see. He just barely missed that first round. But also Juju Smith-Schuster, we talked about him when he fell all the way to 62. He went to Pittsburgh. So, but Jake Butt fell a lot further than a lot of people probably thought he would. 145th pick. That's fifth round, folks, for the tight end. He went to Denver. And then Jeremy Sprinkle, another tight end that I really like out of Arkansas, he fell to 154th. That's a fifth round pick. I think he's going to be very dangerous if Washington wants to run that two tight end set with him and Jordan Reed. Jordan Sprinkle's a big dude, and he can really catch the ball and really make a difference on the football field when he's not doing the wrong things in department stores. So, syndrome. But we'll see. And then Brad Kyle, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe Brad Kyle is the best quarterback out of this draft class. I don't know. It's all yet to be determined. But Detroit took him at 215. That's the sixth round. So I don't know. We'll see. Dan, who do you think might be value picks that someone just stole in this draft?
Yeah, well, you stole one of mine in Jake Butt. I think he's the starting tight end for the Broncos week 1 of his rookie year. The dude's a stud. If he didn't tear his ACL, he's a second-round draft pick. No doubt about it. So I think Elway got a steal there, grabbing him with the first pick of the fifth round. A couple other guys that I really liked. I compared this guy to a poor man's David Johnson, and that's Brian Hill, the running back from Wyoming. He went to Atlanta. I think it was the 12th pick in the fifth round. It's huge value there. I had him ranked as my 6th or 7th best running back in the entire draft. I think he's going to be special, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see him start to make a name for himself as a rookie. You got to look who's ahead of him. You have Devontae Freeman, hamstrings are glass. Tevin Coleman, ankles aren't even there anymore. So they deal with injuries every single year. If they deal with one again, Brian Hill's going to be waiting in the wings to pick up the slack. So fantasy-wise, he's going to be a guy I draft. He might not even be on their depth chart by the time fantasy drafts are rolling around. Give him a couple injuries to step up, and he's a guy that can really make it happen in the NFL. Guy I'm very high on. Another one is another Falcons draft pick that happened just 12 spots after Brian Hill, and that's Damontae Kazee, the defensive back out of San Diego State. Led all of FBS in interceptions. The guy's a ball hawk, and you're basically getting your starting nickel corner in the fifth round. And I think that was a very impressive draft pick by the Falcons. And then I teased it before, but the Browns drafting Caleb Brantley in the sixth round. First pick in the sixth round. We all know about his off-the-field issues that happened 13 days prior to the draft, getting into a supposed fight with a female, although there's conflicting reports that the female started at first. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. He had a second-round grade on my board, and he went in the sixth round. That's fantastic value for the Browns if he can, hopefully stay out of trouble and make it into the NFL and not have any issues lingering. But the Browns said they're confident that he'll get cleared, but if he isn't, they also said they have no problems releasing him. So you look at the spot that he was picked, and that's probably the best value for a single player in the draft. Now, he slipped due to those off-the-field issues, but if he can keep his head above water and stay out of trouble, you're getting a second-round talent in the sixth round. Unbelievable.
Yep, so a lot of good names there, and you almost forgot about Damontae Kazee because, he was not supposed to slip past the second round, really, right?
I had him as like a third or fourth round pick. day 2, late day 2, early day 3. But yeah, 5th round. That's great. He's a ball hawk. Production. That's what you're getting from him. So,
as you said, he led college football in interceptions. It's always a big number. That's always high. And I mean, if you really needed that position, you could probably see him going as high as maybe 2, 3, probably more realistic.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he came off the board, that early. But the fact that he lasted so late it was a little surprising. And the Falcons, with back-to-back picks in the 5th round, got future starters, in my opinion. And anytime you can do that late, that's impressive.
No doubt. So let's move on. The next question comes from every damn single Bears fan out there. And here we go. So the specific question is, what is the biggest reach in the draft not named Trubisky? I'm going with Adam Sheehan, whatever it is. The guy that played against middle schoolers in college, basically. Ryan Pace is so freaking dumb, says every single Bears fan. So Adam Shaheen is 6'6", 278. He's a tight end from Ashland. He was taken 45th overall, early second round there. So the Bears reach for Trubisky, and they had no third-round picks, and so they follow up spending their second-round pick on this guy, Adam Sheehan, out of Ashland. So, Dan, react.
I hate to burst your bubble, every single Bears fan, but I had Shaheen as my 3rd ranked tight end overall. I'm very high on him. I don't think it was a reach at all. I think I comped him to Zach Miller, who obviously I think you guys know as Bears fans. He's a solid tight end, but his ceiling is Rob Gronkowski. He can become that type of playmaker.
A big dude.
Yeah.
Again, he was playing with middle schoolers, as the Bears fan says.
Yeah, his tape was impressive, though. He's got athletic ability. He can stretch the field in the vertical passing game.
My tape would be impressive against 6th graders, too.
Yeah. There was some skill, and even in the some of the combine workouts and other ones where he's going up against other draft prospects, he still stood out. So I'm pretty high on him. So I don't necessarily agree that he's a reach. I think he's going to become a solid player, and Bears fans will like him. Anytime you can get a tight end for that quarterback that you just reached for, because Trubisky was the reach, you're getting him at least a safety blanket.
So, but that begs another question as far as here. So you ended up with and Adam Sheehan, a tight end out of Ashland, in the first 3 rounds. Is that good?
If Trubisky turns out to be a franchise quarterback, yes, it is good. You're gonna have to wait and see a few years though, because they're not going to be able to put that on the field as rookies. Basically, the draft that the Bears did today, or last week, was not for the 2017 season. It was for 2018, 2019, 2020. A guy they grabbed in a 4th round, Tariq Cohen. He was one of my highest rated running backs as well. The human joystick. I think he's going to be a fantastic pro. So I like what the Bears did to a point. I think they gave up too much for Trubisky, but you can't punish Pace right now. You have to wait and see how it turns out. If you fire him after the season and Trubisky ends up being a great pro, you probably let go a good general manager. It doesn't look like it now, but you don't know, and that's the tough part with the draft. You have to wait a few years.
Yeah, that's true. But as we talked about before, I just didn't really see any true first-round quarterback talents in this draft. And you moved up and gave up, 3-4 ultimate picks to move up 1 spot to draft somebody the 49ers weren't even going to touch. I read that they were shocked. They thought the Bears were moving up to take Solomon Thomas. They were shocked when they took Trubisky. So the Bears said, all right, we'll take him, and then take the guy we were going to take all along. So I don't know, man. It's not a good look for the Bears. Looking at their whole draft, I'm not digging it. I'm not digging it at all. So I'm kind of with the Bears fan here. Orlando, do you think Ryan Pace is so freaking dumb?
I don't know. He's so freaking dumb, but I think that Trubisky pick kind of threw them off. I would have liked to see the Bears go more defense. But hey, they went after the guy they wanted, whether it works out or not. They were aggressive in getting Trubisky, and that's what they got. And I don't know if Shaney was so much of a reach. I guess in a way it is because of Zach Miller, and I know Chaney has he has a high floor, high potential, well, high ceiling, but I think they did get a great value pick with the safety they took in the 4th round, and I really thought they were going to stick more to the defensive side of the ball, but they stuck a lot with offense. So I think that Trubisky pick kind of threw everything out of order. For the fans, not so much. The Bears already had in mind what they wanted to do, and that's the way it panned out.
And I think the Bears fans would agree with you, and I think that's just set a tone. I'm not sure it mattered who you drafted after that. After the Bears fans are stunned that you moved up and took Mitchell Trubisky, I think it was kind of a spiral downhill from there, like Orlando was alluding to. But check this out, Dan. Check this out, single Bear. Biggest reach. Well, I had 2. Went right ahead of Shaheen. Gerald, and Dan's going to have to help me out here, but Gerald Everett, 6'3", 240. He's a tight end from UAB, went to the Los Angeles Rams. That's not a big dude. Is he more of a blocking tight end, Dan? Because I'm not going to rely on that dude too much to be a major pass catcher and difference maker.
No, he's a receiving guy. His main goal is catching the football. He transitioned from wide receiver, so he's got the receiving skills. He actually struggles, I think, a little bit blocking. So
not a big dude then. Not a big dude. Are they really going to play him at tight end, or is he going to be more of a receiver then?
I think you're going to see him kind of in that H-back role, maybe similar to a Jordan Reed. Kind of in motion, lining up in the slot, different things like that. You're going to have to be creative with him.
You think he was worthy of a 44th pick then?
I had a 2nd round grade on him, yeah. So I mean, I had about 6 or 7 tight ends that had 1st or 2nd round grades. It was a very deep tight end class, so I don't think it's too much of a stretch. But it's every board is different. That's the thing you always have to look at. So I didn't think it was too crazy. I had him going on day 2 for sure.
What about this one, Dan? There's the other name on my list was Duke Riley. He went 75th overall. That's the 3rd round. This dude's a linebacker, and he's 6 foot 232. I mean, that ain't a whole hell of a lot bigger than I am. It's considerably bigger than I am. But when you're talking about NFL standards, so this is another guy I got to think: is he not really going to play linebacker in the NFL? Dan, 6 foot 232.
Yeah, I don't know what they're. I'm with you there. That was a reach to me. I was kind of shocked that he went early with so many other linebackers that were on the board that I had ahead of him. So I was a little shocked by that. I think I had a 5th round grade on him. So I don't know how he's going to be utilized, but it's going to have to be in certain sub packages, because I don't think you're going to be able to put him on the field for all 3 downs and tell him to either stop the run or cover the pass.
Yep. So I don't know. That's just a couple of guys that I thought were maybe slight reaches. We'll see. All of it's yet to be determined. We don't know. Trubisky could be the next big thing, and Sheehan could actually, Shahan, whatever, it could be the next Rob Gronkowski, as Dan says. I don't know. It's too early, but I'm with you, Bears fans. I don't like what you got out of this draft, me personally. But let's move on and talk about the next question. And my favorite team, coming from our favorite loyal fans here at My Fantasy Podcast, the Purtons. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Nick Purtons wants to know, Brandon, keep me sane here. And man, this NBA season probably drove you insane. I'm not sure I can help you here much further because your wife's team's moving on and playing, whereas our Grizzlies are not. But help keep me sane here. What was John Robinson thinking during the draft? I understand we filled needs, but not with the most talented players on the board. Help me out, brother. P.S. We love the draft show. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate you guys for watching and listening. And Judy won the prize. She won the prize pick. Do you remember who she actually predicted and picked correctly, Dan?
Yep, Christian McCaffrey going to the Panthers 8th overall.
There you go. So, great job, Judy. I'd like to know from you guys, is Judy a Titans fan? Were you able to convince her to be a Titans fan, or is she some crazy Houston Texans fan, or Dallas Cowboys fan or something like that, some Texas team? But that'd be interesting to know. But
Brandon, I can answer that one for you. She is a Titans fan because when she won the prize, I asked her what her favorite team was.
The helmet. There you go. Yes. Great. So we're making progress, Nick. Now we just got to get her on board with the Grizzlies. All right. So as far as filling needs, yes. But I'm right there with you. I don't think it was with the most talented players on the board at that time. Who is to say? I don't know. It's really going to depend on how good of a pro Corey Davis ends up being. I guess the consensus and we'll have to ask Dan this. I think the consensus is that Corey Davis is their number one wideout from day one. Okay, that's great, but I don't like passing on Jamal Adams. I don't like passing on Jonathan Allen, and I don't like passing on O.J. Howard. To me, I saw those as the bigger talents on the boards with all those picks. So they ended up with Adoree Jackson, cornerback, with their 18th pick. So in that first round, those two coveted picks, 5th and 18, who they're fielding all those questions about moving up for, they ended up with Corey Davis and Adoree Jackson. But here's the thing. They went on with Taywan Taylor, a wide receiver, with their next pick. They ended up with Jonnu Smith, a tight end, with their next pick. So here's the way it breaks down. 3 of their first 4 picks were essentially receivers. I thought we were in agreeing that your offense is okay. You're okay with the offense. Let's focus on the glaring problem, defense, and that second worst passing defense in the NFL. So 3 of your first picks were wide receivers. It also broke down to 6 of their 9 picks were on the offensive side of the ball. Again, I thought we were in agreement that offense was not your major problem. So, I don't know. I'm not one to disagree with John Robinson because he's been the complete savior of the franchise. So fortunate to have him over Rustin Webster. Guarantee you that. But some of these picks really got to pan out for him to look really smart. Dan, can you kind of psychoanalyze the Titans' picks? Do you think they worked out okay, or do you think they kind of missed the boat or missed some opportunities with some of these picks?
Yeah, I mean, I like the players they got. I don't think they didn't get non-talented players or, guys that can't play in the NFL. Corey Davis, yes, he's your wide receiver number 1 right away. I even think Taywan Taylor is going to end up being your number 2, and Rashard Matthews is going to slide into the slot. I have Taylor comped to Stephon Diggs, so I think if he can be a solid 2 for Mariota, you might see him make an impact. It might not happen as a rookie, but I think the 2 receivers you guys got are solid, building blocks and weapons for Mariota. Like Brandon said, I'm kind of shocked they didn't go, with Jamal Adams or even a Marshawn Lattimore, and O.J. Howard, different players that I, had ranked higher on the board. But he went after, your wide receiver needs, because the Titans didn't have a need there. Adoree Jackson, I was actually probably more than shocked when he went 18th overall. I had him as a second rounder, early second, but I thought there were better corners on the board, maybe like a Marlon Humphrey. But if you're going to use him in the return game, that's a different weapon and a different animal that you guys can deal with or have everybody else deal with, I guess. So overall, I like their draft. They shored up some defensive holes in free agency. So I guess you can look at that, and then you're getting younger on the offensive side to help build your franchise quarterback. And here's the thing: the AFC South, there's a couple solid defenses there. Jacksonville's going to have a really good defense. Houston already does. The Colts, whatever. But I think John Robinson is putting an arms race going on to be able to play with the Texans and the Jags, because they're going to have some pretty, possible top 10 defenses for sure, both of them.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right, and maybe he is trying to stack up firepower and be one of the division. Let's just hope. But I'm still kind of with Nick that I assume the focus will be on the defensive side of the ball, and 6 of their 9 picks were on the offensive side of the ball, especially with like I said, basically 3 of their first receivers. And so I don't know. I'm not going to doubt John Robinson, though. I still think it was a fairly good draft if these guys pan out. And I just hope Adoree Jackson can play the role that Dan says he can. And I hope Corey Davis shows that he is the number 1 guy from day one. And that will help Marcus Mariota out. But God, I still look back at it and I hate to miss Jamal Adams, Jonathan Allen, which we still need that guy on the line, which I also read that it was the first draft since I think 2005 the Titans didn't take a defensive tackle in the entire draft, which I still think is an area of need for us. So that's a little bit of shock. And still, I think you pair O.J. Howard with Delanie Walker, and oh my God, it's going to be tough. So I don't know. Missed opportunities, we'll see. But thanks for the questions, Pertins, guys, and congrats, Judy. Enjoy the prizes, and thanks for watching and just keeping up with us, guys, through the whole time, the whole year here on My Fantasy Podcast. Let's field a next question from Bill Pfister. And this is not really a question, it's more of a statement, and this one ain't going to take long, guys. Chad Kelly will be the starting quarterback for the Broncos in 2017. Agree? Orlando, agree?
I know it's going to be battle, but I'm not going to agree with it right away. I could see Paxton Lynch or even Simeon filling in that role. I don't see Chad Kelly being a starting quarterback.
No, I don't think that. I think this is almost a joke. I mean, I guess Bill Pfister is a Broncos fan, but if you are a Broncos fan, why the hell would you want that? Mr. Irrelevant.
He'll be sleeping on the bench.
No. Okay, I'll reserve my statement on this one. I'll let.
I mean, I don't think Chad Kelly's going to be on a football roster come August 20th. I think he's going to be a training camp cut. He will never take a regular season snap. I think he's that bad. I said he was undraftable in my draft profile, and I'm sticking to it. I know here in Buffalo, there is this love affair with Chad Kelly, all because Jim Kelly is his uncle. Who cares? Who cares if he's your uncle? That doesn't make him automatically a legitimate starting quarterback. I mean, there's Bills fans still to this day saying they should have drafted Chad Kelly over Nathan Peterman in the 5th or 6th round, which is mind-boggling. I don't know why you would want that. He's a cancer in the locker room. He has off-the-field issues, and honestly, his mechanics suck. So if you want some truth, go to myfantasysportstalk.com, search Chad Kelly in the upper right-hand corner, and read my draft profile because I lit into him. He is not a NFL quarterback. He will never be. I don't care what anybody says. Stick me to it. Put a fork in me. I'm done.
I'm 100% right there with you. It's too bad. And to answer the question is no. More like hell no. But if the Denver Broncos were the choice of HBO's Hard Knocks this year instead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I can see the last episode going something like this. Chad Kelly is called into Vance Joseph's office, and Vance Joseph's response is something like this. You know, we've decided we're pretty set at quarterback. You've shown some promise, and we want to keep you around on the practice squad. And then that sends Chad Kelly into some sort of Ryan Mallett tirade, and Chad Kelly's NFL career is pretty much done before it gets started. That's the way I see this thing going. So it's not going to be documented on HBO Hard Knocks. It will be more behind the scenes, but just watch and see if that happens. This dude ain't going to make it. So sorry, Bill Pfister. Or maybe you're not a Broncos fan and that's exactly what you want to see. But it's going to be my man, Paxton Lynch, eventually winning this job. I can almost guarantee that early May. We'll see how it plays out. Thanks for the question, though. Bob Heater. Forget about the curveball, Ricky. Throw him a heater. Bob Heater says, how long until the Browns are in the playoffs after this fleecing we just did in the draft? I like it, man. Myles Garrett, number 1 overall. Jabril Peppers, 25th overall. David Njoku, 29th overall. You just got 3 studs there in the first round. You know, Deshaun Kaiser, you had to get a quarterback. They just had to do it. But I don't know. We'll see. 2nd round pick. Then Larry Ogunjobi, defensive tackle. He's pretty high on some people's boards. 3rd round. 10 picks overall. They acquired 7 of those picks through trades. Acquired 3 picks in the top 52 via a trade. Great job, Browns. I got to say, this is kind of the way you turn it around. I'm not sure what you're going to do at quarterback. You had to get a quarterback. I don't know if Deshaun Kaiser's it. We'll see. But I like what you did with the draft overall. You didn't reach and try to get a quarterback and waste a pick like you normally do. So I think they have passed the torch, as in blow up this whole thing, to Chicago. So pretty good draft, I'd say, for the Bears. I like it. Dan?
Yeah, I think overall the Browns won. They had a great draft. I mentioned before I'm not a fan of the Peppers pick. I just don't see a position for him in the NFL. He's kind of that jack of all trades. So use him as a gadget guy on offense, maybe occasionally on defense, but you can't have him cover anybody because you can't cover. So, a return guy, different things like that. Kaiser, not high on him at all. He's going to need to develop. But if you actually keep him on the bench and don't force him to play right away, then yes, maybe he can develop into that guy. But if he has to play year 1, year 2, it's not going to work out. So I still think the Browns need to get a quarterback. But here's the thing: win 5 or 6 games this year. Still an increase over year 1 this past season, and the 2018 draft is loaded in quarterbacks. Loaded. There are. I wrote a piece today. I think there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks that not only will go in round 1, but possibly in the top 10 to top 15 picks. So if you don't have your franchise guy this year, it's okay. Win your 6 games, get that top 10 pick, and draft your franchise quarterback next year.
Yep, I like it. I don't think there's much complaints from Browns fans this year. I really think this is one of the best drafts they have had in recent memory because you actually stack some talent. Orlando, what did you think about the Browns draft?
Yeah, no, they really loaded with their draft picks this season. Obviously they had to go for quarterback. I guess this is the Browns way to go. But they did really good. And I like Roderick Johnson. They added on the line. I think they're going to continue to be a run-heavy team this season. I think Carrell he's still going to be one of the featured back there in Cleveland. But their picks that they got, they really noted. And then on top of that, they still got a 2018 first-round pick, I believe. So they did solid on the draft. Now, as far as making the playoffs right away, I'm not going to jump as far as that right away because the quarterback position obviously still still has a lot of concerns. But give it 2-3 seasons. If it pans out, if these players work out the way the Browns hope they do and the way that they're supposed to pan out, then wouldn't be. That's a very tough division to begin with, AFC North. But it would be exciting to see the Browns, in a couple of seasons, make a run for a wild card spot or something. And with some of these players that they got, it's pretty promising.
Yeah, and Orlando just hit on it. The AFC in your division, the AFC North there. And honestly, I would say it's a 4-year project at least. Let's start by not finishing in the gutter, maybe move up to 3rd in the division, or third worst, and then maybe move up to the 2nd in the division, fighting for a division, maybe a few games outside the division crown, and then maybe fight for a chance. But you did a good job this year in the draft, that is, through stacking talent. Now you got to make a little bit more of a splash in the free agency market and just fit the pieces together. But you're not the laughing stock of this draft, Cleveland. It's Chicago, to me, in my honest opinion. But that wraps up draft coverage and the NFL talk for this week on My Fantasy Podcast. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, tuning in, watching the live draft show, submitting your questions, and keeping up with us. And we'll talk more NFL as more free agency news breaks next week, and we'll try to start summing up some of these pieces and parts these NFL teams have put together next week. Let's move on to the NBA. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Brandon Reed here. Orlando Torres has joined us, and Dan Schalk, of course, our founder, president, CEO, CFO, COO, CBSO, and all that, whatever you can name. That's what Dan Schalk is. And, of course, draft profile expert. 192 or 182, 185 draft profiles. What was it?
Don't shortchange me, Brandon.
Man, I couldn't remember. It's an astronomical number regardless. I got that Memphis public school math. I only go so high. So, 192 is stretching the limits of my capabilities there to comprehend and remember. So, wow. But that's what was going on during the NFL draft. Great show there. And Dan keeps spitting it out. Now let's talk about something he's going to be wrong about, and that's James Harden, the Houston Rockets, and all this NBA stuff. Although Dan did win the fantasy championship. God, that hurts. That hurts so bad to know that and recite that. But anyway, NBA season is upon us. The playoffs are upon us, and we're deep into it now. We had our live draft show last week, so didn't talk about our first round prediction pieces that we put out. I think the only one that I missed as far as first round predictions was the Clippers, but no one saw Blake Griffin going out. No one saw that really ending the way it did. So anything you regret, anything you were wrong about that you can remember in the first round prediction pieces, Orlando?
No, I think I hit it well. I expected the Jazz to win. I knew eventually the Clippers are going to crumble, even if Blake Griffin didn't get hurt. I mean, with the full healthy team, the Jazz alone were giving them trouble. So that was bad signs from the beginning.
Well, on the other hand, it took them 7 games to beat the Clippers without Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I mean, but still, like I said, I think the Clips still eventually they would have felt at the end. I didn't see them getting out of round 1 at all. But as far as not so much regretted, and I guess it was more of a mental thing for the Celtics, how they went down 0-2 quickly to the Bulls, but they rebounded pretty fast, and it was I almost regretted picking the Celtics, but I mean it panned out perfectly, and we're still seeing that ever since dropping those first 2 games to the Bulls. I mean they've won 6 straight. So other than that, nothing I regret from the first round picks.
I still got to think that the Clippers would have beat the Jazz if Blake Griffin played. Did you guys see this earlier reported this week that Chris Paul is seriously like the 4th most efficient player in playoff history? Did y'all see that? And this is true. This is the actual fact.
I saw a stat that since 2000, or it was in the late 90s, or since 2000, at least every team has been to the Western Conference once, except 2 teams, and those teams featured Chris Paul, which is the Clippers and the New Orleans Hornets at that time. And that to me was shocking. Now, not so much shocking, but it's something to think about. And I'm not going to blame it all on Chris Paul. I know, you hear a lot of stories that the guy's hard to play with. I don't know how he personally is in the locker room or stuff. But he's a hell of a player when he's on the court. He could drop points, but I've heard he's really tough to play with. So I don't know. That's something that's that lingers on with them. It's just him just wanting to be the man or just take that last shot or what it is. But
well, it's not to the level though of like Dan would say Russell Westbrook this year in the playoffs though, because as a single individual player, Chris Paul is one of the most efficient ever in the playoffs. But I guess he's not surrounded himself with the best team. Dan, could you believe that stat? Did you see that? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't see it. It's hard to believe, to be honest, just because he's never been to a conference finals. You would think efficiency would bring wins, but obviously that's not the case. That's a little surprising. So I'll be honest. I mean, I don't stay up too much on the East Coast here to catch a lot of Clippers games. You look at the box score, and Chris Paul lights it up, but. It's
I guess points, assist, turnover, or assist to turnover ratio, and then steals. And I think what it was basically based off of was plus minus differential when he is on the floor, and he is averaging out to be about the 4th most efficient player in the playoffs in NBA history, which is just a crazy, mind-blowing stat to me because I think they've made 1 conference finals, if I'm not mistaken, several years ago.
I don't think Chris Paul has ever made it to the conference finals.
No, it was Chris Paul. They never got out of round 2.
Okay, so I'm wrong there. So that is just that's mind blowing, and it's someone as not a Clippers fan, not a Chris Paul fan. That's hard for me to admit, but I was kind of flabbergasted when I saw that. It's just a very efficient basketball, and it's just the team that has not been catching up and doing it. So I know that was my 1 loss. Dan, did you lose any series or misstep on any predictions out of the first round?
Yeah, I had the Clippers in 7, so that was my my 1 incorrect pick.
And I think I'm disagreeing with Orlando. I think if Blake Griffin played, they may have ended that in 6. I don't think it was going to be a whole different series with Blake Griffin. I think if he can stay healthy. Now I think that team blows up a little bit to some regard, or maybe to a large regard. I don't know. We'll see. But
well, there's talks about Chris Paul already playing in Miami and San Antonio as a possible destination for next season.
What if he finally goes to the Lakers like he tried to do before the commissioner blocked the trade deal?
I don't think it would make sense for him now, because I think at his age, he's going to want to go to a contender. So
Very true. Yeah, he's getting sick of losing.
As much as money he'll get from LA, they're not going nowhere for by the time the team's ready to contend, the guy's going to be done with basketball.
I don't know. You put Paul George and the first overall pick on that Lakers team.
Yeah,
they'll run the Spurs out of the building.
Okay, Spurs, but you still got Houston. You still got Golden State. Regardless.
So you're saying Houston is better than the Spurs?
I'm just saying the West. I'm just saying the West in general. Just the West in general. That's all.
Right. Yeah. No. But I think it could be a
thick and hard to get through.
Yeah. So going to a team in the East would make sense compared to the competition that's in the West. I mean, you got LeBron out there, of course, but I think he would have
it's not going to be Cleveland or Boston, and it's not going to be Toronto with Kyle Lowry, so one of those guys would have to move, and it's not going to be Washington. So you're talking the top 4 seeds in the East have legitimate solid point guards. So is Miami one piece away, a Chris Paul piece away from being a legit contender? I mean, they would have to go through a lot of thick teams too in the East.
Yeah, I mean, they got some nice pieces. They got Whiteside, they got Dragic. So I don't know if Chris Paul is the full answer for them, but I don't think he's going to return with LA next season.
So let's move on and talk about our thoughts on the round 2 so far. So we've got only one team that's up 2-0 and in complete control right now, and that's the Boston Celtics. And oh my God, did you see the performance by Isaiah Thomas last night with 53 points on what would have been his sister China's 23rd birthday? What a story, man. You got to feel for this guy. He had lost his sister 2 weeks ago. He got his tooth knocked out a couple of days ago. The Celtics are up after being down 0-2 to the Bulls, the 8th seed in the first round. What a whirlwind for this guy in the last couple of weeks, guys. And what he did last night, he was literally unfreaking stoppable.
Yeah, that was definitely impressive to say the least. And as a person who picked the Celtics to go to the finals in the preseason, it's good to see them starting to click and mesh at the right time. I mean, Washington, I thought they had that. They had a big lead, in that game, and then they just couldn't stop the pick and roll and Isaiah Thomas. So he kind of just took over. Some defensive liabilities kind of showed for Washington. But yeah, I mean, just imagining what he's going through, the emotional highs and lows. It's just, I don't know how you can actively deal with that and still have that. It looked like he was having fun yesterday. He was smiling. And
after showing off the new two. But then after the game, you saw he instantly referred to his sister. It was all for his sister. She's guiding him through this whole process.
Right, so it's somebody to root for. I saw a stat that he was the youngest or the shortest player to ever score 50 points, or first player under 6 feet to ever score 50 points in a playoff game. So he's turning a lot of heads this postseason. Colin Cowherd today said he's the second best player in the East, which I still think might be a little bit of a stretch, but he's playing like it right now. You can make that argument. I think Cowherd was kind of just being Cowherd and wanted to hear himself talk a little bit, but he's playing like the second best player in the East. I don't think he is, but his on-court stats are backing that up.
Well, and we also got a mailbag question coming up in a little bit. I'm not even ranking Isaiah Thomas in the top 2 point guards in the East. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but yes, he's playing unbelievable. Love the dude. So right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are beating up on the Toronto Raptors pretty good. They're about to go up 2-0 if this score holds. It's just early into the third quarter of their game, but they're up by like 14-15 on the Raptors right now. So that's looking like Cleveland may be in control of that series. And of course, the Warriors destroyed the Jazz last night. They're so deep. The Warriors are just so deep. There's just not many answers the Jazz are going to have for the Warriors in this series. Then, of course, the big shocker, we saw the Rockets hit 23 threes in San Antonio and destroy Orlando's Spurs. Orlando, floor is yours. Thoughts, comments, concerns?
All right. Going back to the Boston and Wizards series, I mean, it was a pretty awesome performance. It kind of reminded you of Brett Favre back in the day when after his father passed away and he had that, that wonderful performance against the Raiders.
That's right.
But I expect that series to still go 7 games. The next two, Bradley Beal and John Wall, I still think are going to be a lot to handle. And I could see them coming back game 5, exactly 2-2.
Well, and real quick, I don't want to throw you off, Orlando, but Michael Gomez was watching. Michael Gomez is the only one to pick the Wizards in this series. Michael Gomez says the Wizards are going to win in 7.
I was actually this close to submitting the Wizards, but I'm going to stick with the Celtics to pull it off in 7. But even though
4 of us think that this series is going to 7 games. 3 of us are picking the Celtics, but and then Michael Gomez picks the Wizards in 7.
But as far as the Spurs, it was horrible. It was nasty. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was in disgust. I mean, the halftime score by 30 points, 39-6, and it was trash. I know the regular season doesn't mean much going into playoffs, but I do expect this still to be 6-7 game series. Obviously, that depends on a lot tonight. If they go into Houston down 0-2, then obviously, I mean, it looks like Dan might be right. I'm still not going to count on my guys. I guess this is a must-win game for the Spurs. They can't afford to go down 0-2 and expect to come back 1-3, back for game 5, because that's going to be a tough hole to dig out of.
So let me ask you then, what are the adjustments out of? And you've seen a lot of Spurs game. I guess you've probably seen every Spurs game this year. What the season series ended 3-1, Spurs on top. The Rockets won 1 game out of that 4-game series by only 2 points. They dismantled the Spurs in San Antonio in game 1. So this is a culmination of your season, man. What have you seen with this makeup of the San Antonio Spurs? What is the problem, or what adjustments have to be made starting tonight?
One thing, slowing down the pace and not getting so lost. You saw the Spurs. The Rockets basically had the Spurs running in circles. The Spurs were like a dog just chasing his tail continuously in circles, because that's what it looked like. They were just lost. They're out of sync. And I think in the regular season, the Rockets actually made some pretty good adjustments, because in the regular season, they had absolutely no answer for Kawhi. And in game 1, they were double, triple teaming him. And in the regular season, too, you didn't see Trevor Ariza come around as much. Patrick Beverly played a pretty good role, but Trevor Ariza came up pretty huge. So did Ryan Anderson, and James Harden has always been a concern for us. Even in the regular season, he always got his 30 plus points, whatever it was. But I think they had to go back to slowing down the pace, trying to slow down on offense, and defending better from the 3-point line. Because I don't expect Houston to hit 22 threes again. I hope not, but that's over 60 points alone.
I think that was a playoff record.
Yeah, that was a playoff record. That was horrible to watch. But I mean, it is what it is. I still think it's going to be a long series. I'm hoping for it. But yeah, Houston is no joke. I mean, even with Dan picking Houston, I'd never said nothing wrong, because watching Houston, being 3.5 hours away from Houston, we have a lot of fans down here in San Antonio from Houston. We have a lot of Mavericks fans down here. It's a wide variety. But being from Houston, I've kept up with how good they were, and that's one of the main reasons too I've defended Harden as being the MVP over Russell Westbrook, because I have kept up with a lot of Rockets basketball, and they're gonna be a train wreck if they do get past the Spurs. So it's gonna be a tough series in game 2. Like I said, yeah, it's a must win.
Well, I didn't see it falling apart on the Spurs like this, but I agree with you. The Rockets are not a bad team. This is a bad matchup for San Antonio, because we joke with you about how old the San Antonio Spurs are. So this is a bad matchup for the league's oldest team to be playing the team that plays the fastest pace in the NBA and gets up and down like that and throws up a lot of shots, including a lot of threes. So it's a bad matchup for San Antonio if they do not control this pace of game.
That is true. But Houston has been a team too that live by the 3, and throughout the season, they've gotten a lot of criticism for them. And, you've seen a lot of the analysts say, well, Houston can't go into the playoffs expecting to shoot threes and just win games. You go back to the OKC series, they relied on the 3 heavily, to where you could argue that if Oklahoma would have played a little bit better, or got some of the shots or steals that they should have gotten, that game series could have been easily 6, maybe 7 games, because
and they were trying to keep up with the Rockets. The Spurs can't do that. The Thunder were actually trying to match the pace of the Rockets, and it was just a one-man show. And by the end of the game, Russell Westbrook was wearing out, as Dan will point out and mention to you, that his shooting percentage was very horrible in the fourth quarter, because by that time he's gassed from running up and down with these Rockets.
True, but that you could even say that about Houston, that they're getting gassed a bit. I mean, they put out games, but some of these games were pretty close, and coming down to the end, and it was just a matter of fact of Russell Westbrook gassing out and Houston being able to pull away. Now, I'm not saying nothing bad about Houston, because they still won the series like the way they should have, but they relied on the 3-ball a lot in that series as well. I think they're going to continue to go by that plan. Obviously, they're going to make some adjustments, but as quickly as they hit 22 threes, I mean, they could be as quickly to fail, to go from like 4 of 25 from 3-point line, whatever the number may be. Again, the Rockets, they gotta have the momentum right now. They're gonna be on fire. They gotta feel good about themselves. Just beating the crap out of the Spurs by 27 points in Game 1. So it's gonna be a dangerous game, pretty scary team.
If I had to make the adjustments for the Spurs, and I talked about this on our message board, this is what I would do. Seriously, this is what I would do. If I'm the Spurs, I go to a 3-2 zone. Don't start David Lee over Pau Gasol. Okay, that's not your answer, guys.
They already announced that.
Huh?
They just announced that.
They are. They aren't.
They aren't. Pau Gasol starting.
Right. So I go to a 3-2 zone because, number one, you can play the three-point shooters a little bit better and get out on them and guard the three-point arc. Number two, you're not chasing guys all over the floor, and that's going to help your bigger guys. And then, of course, number three is you have your bigger guys clogging up the lane and collecting those missed shots because they're being double-teamed out on the wings and on the perimeter when they try to shoot those three-point shots. I think that's going to suit the Spurs style a little bit better. I know it's almost taboo to even play a zone in the NBA, particularly in the playoffs, disregarding the right situation. But this is the right situation, so that's what I would do. I'd at least try it. And I expect Pop to make some adjustments, and we'll see. We'll see if it happens. But that's exactly what I do, and I think you'd see a little bit different game because Orlando's right. You have to slow down the pace. You have to control that pace, and I think a 3-2 zone would do it. And then number two, you got to get back after you make a bucket. You can't lollygag down the floor because these Rockets are running. So you have to sprint back down, get in that zone defense. And I think you're talking about a different game. If you hold the Rockets to 87 to 91, 92 points, I think you probably win the game. And I think you're talking about a whole different series here. But Dan is the only one that picked the Rockets. And so let's get to that. Let's get to our mailbag questions in the NBA. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Schalk, and Orlando Torres. And so a great segue into our first mailbag question from Chester Gronzik, sorry. So, okay, fellas, being honest here, I literally laughed out loud when I saw Dan be the only guy to pick the Rockets in your predictions. But after that game one, it got me thinking, Dan, do you know something that we don't? I was in the mindset that the Rockets would crumble not playing the one-man show Russell Westbrook. So, Dan, tell Chester Gronzik, do you know something we don't?
I think that's pretty obvious. Yes, I do know a lot that our Spurs and Grizzlies fan on the podcast don't. And that is that James Harden is the real MVP. I know Orlando gave him a little bit of love, but Harden's the MVP, and honestly, I think his supporting cast. I dismayed it for a while, but watching them play in the playoffs, I think he has a better supporting cast than Kawhi Leonard does in San Antonio. I think overall, it's a better team. Yes, they may live and die by the three, but didn't Golden State win a championship doing that 2 years ago?
Yes, and let me step in right there because this is one of the biggest points I wanted to make, and it's a perfect time for it. I do actually like the team or the philosophy that Houston has assembled here, because it's going after that Golden State mindset, that Golden State style of play. But what they are is a very poor man's Golden State. They don't have the guys. They don't have the length. They don't have the athleticism. They don't have the pure shooters that Golden State does. A for effort, but they're on a completely lower level. They're like a C-rated Golden State version.
I'll give them a B-plus rated version, and I think we're going to see that in the next series when it's the Rockets-Warriors,
Yes, we will.
and the Rockets win.
5 games.
Yeah, I do
5
think the
games.
Rockets will win in 5. Actually, probably 6.
Crazy.
But
crazy.
I'll tell you this: if the Rockets get through San Antonio, they are my favorite to win it all. I think they're clicking and meshing on all the right levels. James Harden, when healthy, I think he can be a better player than what Steph Curry is for the Warriors. You have
You're missing the chance to jump off the bandwagon. You're going the opposite way of the way this thing is really going to go. If they get by the Spurs, they're done.
You have Ariza shutting down Kevin Durant with his perimeter defense. Listen here. Who asked the question? I forgot his name, but yeah,
Chester Grodzik.
Chester. I do know something, and so obviously, as you see, being the only one picking the Rockets in our prediction piece, stay with me. Believe in me. Believe in what I'm saying, because just ride the Rockets to the NBA Finals, because it's going to happen.
Orlando, your turn.
It's only game 1. Dan's overreacting right now. He's sticking by his pick, but it's still early. I got nothing to say. I got nothing to say at the moment. I'm just going to let this series play out.
Here's the thing: the only way the Rockets will lose to the Spurs is if the NBA starts to allow walkers on the court, because then they might be able to get back a little bit faster with those wheels helping them. I think that's the only way that the Rockets exposed the Spurs. I know it was only game 1. I do expect a closer game in game 2, but I just see too much firepower, and Kawhi is doing it by himself. LaMarcus Aldridge needs to score more than 4 points.
No, and I do believe that. 'Cause you look at, the Spurs sometimes, it's just basically Kawhi doing everything. So I'm not going to disagree with everything. But, the Walkers, come on. But as far as Golden State, I don't know so much if the Houston's going to be able to take them down as much as that would be fun to see. And that's kind of hard to see. And even if they do take them down, there's no way they're getting past Cleveland in my eyes. But that's already going beyond.
Here's the thing: it's also going to be Boston, so Cleveland won't even be there either.
I'm glad we have this difference in opinion, guys, because I'm telling y'all the truth
Celtics
right now. I'm the Paul Pierce of this podcast.
Off of Cleveland. That's it.
Warriors got the championship, guy. We might as well fast forward to June 26th when Russell Westbrook is getting the MVP award, because this season is over. I mean, I want to watch basketball, and I love NBA basketball, but the Warriors are the champions, guys. There ain't no way that anyone is beating them.
If it's
Cleveland's got to get it together,
Cavs,
then they may have a slight chance.
Finals, it's a repeat. If it's the Cavs and Warriors in finals, it's a repeat. You go back to the Oklahoma days, Kevin Durant. How many times did he get frustrated? He go punch the bench, whatever, because LeBron shut him down. Curry last year got bullied by LeBron. I'm sorry, there's no way the Cavs are letting the Warriors win a championship this year if it is them in the finals. It's going to be the Cavs again if it's that matchup.
The Cavs couldn't even get the number 1 seed in the East, so that's the team you're relying on?
No, hey, they're looking pretty good right now.
The Warriors are so deep, guys. I don't know if y'all watched that Jazz game last night, but you got JaVale McGee, Zaza Pachulia coming in and playing great defense on Gordon Hayward.
All right, I think you're getting a little bit crazy on your love affair.
I'm watching the game. I'm telling y'all what happened.
They have one of the worst benches in the league. They're not.
Are you kidding me? Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston. Are you kidding me?
Wait,
Yeah, Iguodala can't shoot worth my grandma's cookies.
He does everything. He does everything. Draymond Green does everything. Draymond Green came off the bench and almost got a triple-double last night in like 19 minutes.
But that's rare for Draymond Green. He do that 4 point for a triple-double, yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
speaking of walkers, you're going to need one for Livingston and Iguodala because they are getting pretty up there as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Livingston doesn't even have a left kneecap, so he can only do so much. And he's okay for 5-10 minutes off the bench. But if you're, I think it's a known thing around the league that the Warriors don't have a deep bench. They have so much less depth than they did last season when they lost. I mean, they didn't gain anything. They have Ice-T McGee, but as soon as you actually get a decent big on him, they're gonna play mind games. Listen, I was a huge JaVale McGee fan. I watched him every single day in Denver. He's going to crumble, similar to what Steph Curry does. Draymond.
You guys, I don't know what y'all are watching. I don't know what y'all are watching. Anyway, I'll get the last laugh. The Warriors, the champions, guys. The Warriors, the champions. What I'd like to know, Chester Gronzik, is have you switched sides? I mean, do you really think that Houston is going to win this series now? I mean, how far do you think they'll go? That's what I want to know. But
I thought we answered this question. Dan already gave his answer.
We're moving on. The next question comes from Quan Elliott. Will the Cavs lose more than one game in the playoffs in the East? Each series we're talking about here. So they're about to go up 2-0 in Toronto, I assume, on the last score check. So, and assuming they'll probably play Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. Will they lose one game or more than one game in any series in the East? No, not the finals. They are getting swept. And you know what Quan Elliott says here? He didn't say it, but what he's thinking is because they're playing the Warriors and they're going to get swept. Me and Quan are on the same page here. Believe
his profile picture is James Harden.
Oh.
I was just making I was
gonna be wrong.
He's the Warriors guy. Yeah, I think he's talking about the Warriors there, but I had to get that.
Quan. Come on, Quan. Show me the Quan. Man, you disappoint, man. Whatever. Okay. All right. So well, let's go back to the original question then. Will the Cavs lose more than one game? I assume that if they play the Celtics, they're going to lose more than one game, but I still think they're coming out of the East. Damn.
Yeah, I was kind of being a little joking when I said the Celtics will be in the finals. I still do think, the Cavs are the heavy favorites, but yeah, I think it'll go at least 6. I think you can even see a game 7 if Isaiah Thomas is playing the way he is. He continues that. So I definitely think they're not going to win every series in 5. Or less. Although with Toronto, I do envision a sweep or 5 games, but that Eastern Conference Finals is where they lose more than one game.
Orlando?
I'm going to say at least 2 games. 1 to the Raptors, either game 3 or 4, and 1 to Boston.
So, but you're actually agreeing with Quan then. You don't think they're going to lose 2 games in a series?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I'm all in on Cleveland making it to the NBA Finals. We're going to see a three-peat. We're going to see that third tie-breaking series-deciding championship battle between the Cavs and the Warriors. I'm already telling you that, and I'm already telling you that the Warriors are probably going to win that in 5. But they're going to lose more than one game to Boston, I'd say for sure, especially like if Dan says if Isaiah Thomas keeps playing at that high level. I don't know, man. They're whooping Toronto right now, so I don't know if that's going to happen. They're playing at a different level. They know how to crank it up, and they're finally.
I know what you're saying. I get it about Isaiah Thomas, but I don't think he has his supporting cast that LeBron has. He doesn't have Kyrie,
no.
second best player in the East, and he doesn't have. And Kevin Love has been showing up, so I do like Isaiah Thomas, but I don't know if Al Horford or Marcus Smart are going to get on the production that LeBron's getting out of his guys.
I honestly think now that Tristan Thompson is Khloe Kardashian free, that his head is clear and he can bang and give it to Al Horford a little bit. So I think that's a neutralizer right there. So I like what you're saying, Quan, but I'm disagreeing. I think if they do the Eastern Conference Finals, man, it's probably not going to go down in 5, so we'll see. But I think the Cavs could probably win it in 6 over the Celtics if that's the way it comes down to. But I don't think they're going to lose more than one game in this particular semifinal, Eastern Conference semifinals, to the Toronto Raptors. The way it's looking, man, when's Toronto going to turn that corner? I don't know. But thanks, Quan, and I'm sorry about the disrespect if you're really a Houston fan, because ain't no chance. You and Dan need to start messaging each other and sharing recipes if that's the case. But let's move on. Last question of the NBA variety comes from Lamont McFarlane. I love watching John Wall play. The dude is smooth as ice, and it got me thinking, if you were to pick one point guard in the East to start your team with, who would it be, Wall or Irving? or anyone else, but I don't think anyone else is in the same class as those guys. And how many, I talked about this a couple of weeks on the podcast, John Wall, dude is special. I love John Wall, and I'm right there with you. I'm taking John Wall over Kyrie Irving for sure. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm taking Kyrie over anyone in the East for what he does. The floor leadership, the scoring, the assist ability, the floor vision, the length and athleticism, the block shot ability as a point guard. I'm taking John Wall. No doubt about it right there. I'm 100% with you, and I love watching that dude play. He's up there, man. He's up there for me, top 5 players in the East, period. And I wish Washington would get it together, that they would finally have a little bit more playoff success, because they got a squad. I mean, they really do. They really do have some good pieces there. When you talk about, of course, Wall, and then Bill, and then Otto Porter, who does it all, and Marcin Gortat, and then Markieff Morris, it's a pretty good starting 5 lineup. It's just they're battling some other pretty good teams in the East. So anyway, what do you think about John Wall, Dan?
I think he's a solid player. I think he's kind of in that Chris Paul mold. He's not a winner. He hasn't gotten out of the round, first or second round of the playoffs either. So I need to see him win.
You think it's a personality trait, though? I mean, he's not the same type of player Chris Paul is. Are you saying?
No, I just classify him as putting W's, in the playoffs.
But he plays for the Wizards, who traditionally is never any good. You think
right. I like this. I like this team. I mean, I figured. I know they gave Boston a run for their money in Game 2, but I would have expected a split. To be honest with you, if John Wall wants to be that superstar number 1 point guard in the East, show me a little bit in the Celtics series, and then maybe I'll go with it. I'm not even a huge fan of Kyrie either. I mean, look at what he did before LeBron came to town. He wasn't a winner either. Obviously, look at their supporting cast. I went kind of out of the box thinking about this because I like this question. It really did get me thinking of who I would choose. I went through the list, and here's the thing. This is what I came to. If I was going to start a team, who my starting point guard would be from the East is the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's not necessarily a point guard. He's kind of that point forward mold.
That is definitely outside the box.
I can let him do that. He gets my assists. He'll be a great defender on other point guards or any other position. So if I was going to start a team, I would think out of the box and go with him, because in a couple of years I think he's going to be number 2 or number 3 best player in the NBA, right behind LeBron, if he's still able to do that at his age.
Oh, there you go.
You like that weird one?
I do look, because I love Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I was talking to Michael Gomez on the. And I didn't realize. I don't think Giannis Antetokounmpo is under contract till like 2019, or maybe even further than that, 2020, maybe into the early 2020s. But if I'm the Lakers, that's the dude I want. That is the future. I guess if you're any non-playoff qualifying team right now, that is the dude of the future. Orlando, what do you think?
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with Kyrie Irving over John Wall. I love John Wall, but a lot of it has to do with getting over the hump, and I know that hasn't been the case for a lot of players in the East. But even Kyle Lowry with the healthy back, I might take over John Wall just because of his defending ability. This season, in the postseason, hasn't been great for him because he's dealing with the bad back. So I think that has to do with a lot of Toronto's woes. So as far as sticking with the point guard, I'm sticking with Kyrie and putting Lowry right behind John Wall with the healthy back, right in front of John Wall.
I love me some John Wall, and I just wish they could finally get it together in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. Still a lot to play out here in the second round of these playoffs. So it's going to wrap up our mailbag questions for this week. So now let's just wrap it up. Dan, what all is going on the website, man? You got some big things out there as far as you've already started the 2018 draft board, and we've got other, breaking news. Orlando is covering all the recapping all the NBA playoff games on the site right now. So entertainment section is buzzing and a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah. I mean, the site content is blowing up. I started to look at the 2018 NFL draft. I found myself, just kind of bored, not watching game tape anymore. So I just started, let's jump right into 2018. So I did that. Obviously, we've put a lot of articles, just up-to-date news, happening in the sports world. Orlando's been doing a great job recapping basically every NBA playoff game. We did a couple previews today, so the NBA section is definitely blowing up. And then the entertainment section, as usual, they're just popping out a whole bunch of articles. Sad to see that Pitch, the Fox TV show about baseball, was canceled, and Kira McCall did a great piece on it. I know she was a big Pitch fan, covered all the episodes for us, and she was pretty heartbroken when it did get canned. So that was tough to see, but entertainment section doing very well. So definitely check it out. And then obviously as baseball season continues, we're going to be continuing up on that. So definitely excited. And obviously our podcast will be up there in a couple days.
Well, and a lot of people were fans of that Pitch show, but I'll tell you another show that everybody's jumping on that I guess I'm going to have to break down and finally watch is everybody's talking about Into the Badlands.
Yeah, Kira actually covers that show as well. I'm with you, Brandon. I haven't caught it, but it's been. I didn't even know it was really a TV show. It's because Kira is now an editor for the entertainment section, so she just publishes her articles, and she's been covering that every week, and it's been one of the most popular entertainment articles every week. So I can definitely understand why people are probably telling you to go watch it because it has been blowing up for us on the site.
I'm getting multiple friends each time I post one of those articles telling me that they love that show. So, I mean, that's it. You don't get that on every single thing you post. So if it's that popular, then I'm going to have to check it out eventually. So I don't know how far I am behind, but I'll have to catch up and get into that. And Dan, before we go, release some of the numbers you told us earlier about the traffic on the website over this last NFL draft weekend.
Yeah, it was funny. I don't know if our listeners out there have the app called Time Hop, but last year, so the last year's draft, not the one a week ago, over the weekend we had 11,000 viewers, visitors to the site, and I was pumped at the time. I was tooting my own horn, tooting everybody else's horn, who all helped because it was a great team effort. But this year we eclipsed that 11,000 total the first night of the draft. I think the numbers went 12,000 on Thursday, 13 or 14,000 on Friday, 14,000, almost 15,000 on Saturday, another 10 or 11,000 on Sunday. We eclipsed over 54,000 views, visitors coming to the site for our draft coverage. All the draft profiles were blowing up. I wrote a lot of articles talking about the best players available, undrafted free agents, things like that, and the viewers just ate it up, and I was very happy to see that amount of views. Just looking at it from a year ago, 11,000 we were happy with, and now it's 54,000 in 1 year's time. So I'm very happy. It's not where I want to be. I want to be even better than that. And I think, with the content that we put out there, it's going to only continue to grow. So it's something I'm very excited for, the future of My Fantasy Sports Talk and the My Fantasy podcast.
Well, you know what that means. That means next season during draft, we're eclipsing over 100,000. Just keep positive. That is some great news.
Yeah, 100,000. That was my long shot goal that I wanted to hit. But to be able to get 54 and to see the increase.
With that much of a jump, it's not out of reach. That is.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's possible. And not only that, but the views have continued to carry into yesterday and today. So we haven't had less than 8,000 views in a day since previous to the draft. So it's definitely continued past that as well.
Wow.
Yep, big numbers, and it's all thanks to you guys. So keep watching, keep listening, keep sharing the articles, keep sharing the website out there and get it out there. We'll grow it even more and bring more things to you, like the live NBA draft show coming up very soon. So appreciate it, guys. Keep submitting the questions too. Next week we'll talk more NBA playoffs. Of course, we'll talk NFL free agency. We'll probably squeeze in some MLB talks, Major League Baseball for all you baseball fans, and of course we'll answer your mailbag questions and talk about what you want to talk about. But thanks for watching live on YouTube. And keep checking us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, SPN, Sports Podcasting Network, WBLZ at WBLZSports.com. And, of course, the website, myfantasysportstalk.com. Why go anywhere else for sports and entertainment? Why? I mean, that's the question. It makes no sense. So don't do it. That's my quick and simple answer for you. Just don't do it. Oh, that's it. So thanks for Orlando Torres for joining us, for Dan Shaw and Brandon Reed. Until next week, later. Peace.